Like, did you see the UFC this weekend?
I didn't, and I won't.
Oh my God, Brian Ortega and Alexander Volkanovski had one of the craziest title fights I've ever seen in my life. It was wild, and I kind of wish I was there. I was out of town for that one. That was my hunting trip, so I had to cancel it. But God damn, it was so good. It was so crazy. Like, that was a fight you couldn't call because Ortega almost won twice with 2 insane submissions. Once with a he got him on the bottom with a guillotine, or he mounted him rather with a guillotine, and then he got him on the bottom with a triangle. It was insane. And Ortega is known for his submissions. His submissions are some of the best.
He's got like
in MMA.
He's a Torrance Jiu-Jitsu guy, right?
He's from the original Gracie Academy in Torrance.
That's where I trained.
Yeah,
keep going.
Horian ran the school, and his sons.
Henner.
Yeah, Henner and Huron. And it's just, and Brian Ortega came from there. It's like lineage. It's lineage, like it's like some of the purest jiu-jitsu that you're gonna get. And when you say fundamentals, like Brian Ortega has perfect fundamentals. Cron Gracie, perfect fundamentals. They do everything to like this razor sharp. When he dove on that guillotine choke, I was like, that is like, I wish people could see how beautiful that is the way I see it.
Yeah.
Because I know how hard that is to do. The way he slipped it in and got mount on a world champion.
Yeah.
Full guillotine mount on a world champion. And the guy got out. I mean, he's gurgling. It's as deep as it gets. And when you realize how good Brian Ortega is and what he's in right now, he's in a mount, but he's also got his legs crossed underneath, which is like the most ruthless mount. Because a regular mount, you're on top of a guy and the guy can kind of buck. But Ortega's got his legs crossed. So that kind of guillotine with a guy like that is death. It's death. And that crazy motherfucker from Australia got out, where 99.99% of the people who have ever lived would have tapped out.
Yeah.
That fucking savage. It's like, not today, bitch. I'd rather die.
I did a deep dig on Brian Ortega. He was on Schaub's Calabasas companion.
Yes.
And probably one of the most interesting human beings I've ever heard talk. He's a actor. And he just doesn't come at it as an actor, which is how I come at it as, like just a regular person.
He's an actor? He was acting before he did fighting?
Please correct
No, we don't
me.
have to pull it up.
No. Please
true?
let me know. So let me know. Hold on. Brian Ortega was in a movie with Shia LaBeouf.
They were both in the movie, but that was like the first, or maybe he's done very few things.
Was that when he was already fighting? When was that movie?
Very recently with
yeah.
and Schaub. They were like, Schaub was an extra, but Brian's in it.
But they
too.
probably
Not
brought
extra,
Brian in because he's already
background.
fought for the title before. He fought Max Holloway.
Yeah.
He knocked out Frankie Edgar. I mean, Brian Ortega has been a bad motherfucker for years.
I heard you. I got into a deep dive about him, and I do a thing called Open Tabs where I keep all the tabs open in my Safari browser, and then I do a podcast about telling you about all the shit I learned over the weekend. And I had a big Brian Ortega one, but I took it out because sometimes with cage fighters, they don't. Maybe what I say isn't what they hear, and I don't want to piss any of them off.
I know what you're saying. Like, some dudes are super sensitive.
Well, I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive as fuck. And Brian Ortega was in this movie with Shia LaBeouf, and he told this crazy story about Shia trying to fight him, and I was like,
oh my God, that's hilarious.
And I was like,
is that real? Is that real?
Yeah.
I heard the story, so I mean,
that is hilarious.
But Brian Ortega, the way he was telling the story was like, it was good, like it was legit good storytelling. Like he can do jiu-jitsu. I can tell a motherfucker's story,
right?
And the way he was telling the story
was like the way you would do jiu-jitsu.
No, not at all. Actually, if I knew jiu-jitsu, yes, he was telling it good. And I was like, who the fuck is Brian? And then the next clip is you talking about Brian Ortega's jiu-jitsu is flawless.
It's flawless,
but it's you said it's fundamental.
Yeah, what that means is there's like some basic, and the word basic gets offensive to some people because I think they misinterpret. Like when I that's why I use the word fundamentals instead of basic. But what I mean by basic is there's just like some amazing moves in jiu-jitsu that are standard. Like the arm bar is standard. Arm bar from the guard is a standard move. A guillotine choke is a standard move. A rear naked choke is a standard move. A Darce choke is we're getting a little more new schooly because there's a guy, Joe Darce that came up with that name. But there's a Bravo choke that's kind of similar that's in jiu-jitsu with the gi. And there's a lot of like techniques like gi techniques that are very fundamental, like Ezekiel chokes and clock chokes. They're basically kind of fundamental. And then you get into this new school like Eddie Bravo style, where he's got some of these students that are just doing this wild shit. There's this kid, Ben Eddy, who teaches out of Portland. I think he's in Portland. And Ben Eddy's like super flexible with his wild guard. And I was just looking at this new move that he was doing where he's got like this rubber guard, new choke. And I was analyzing this. I was like, whoa. And I'm like, how many people can move their legs like that? Like, how flexible is he? How much dexterity does he have in his legs? The way he's applying pressure. I'm like, can my fat ass do that? I'm looking at how he's doing it. I'm like, can I do that? Or is this like out of my league? Is this like one of them? There's some crazy flexibility moves that you have to be like a pretzel to use. So he's doing this shit. Well, Ben Eddy's got amazing jiu-jitsu. And he's one of the things I love about him, he's a long-haired hippie. And he's not like a brute at all. But he's a goddamn assassin when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Those are my favorite guys who you would think would be like kind of nerds. But they are. They're like nerd assassins. That's how Eddie always calls them. He calls them like nerd assassins. They're like intelligent people that are playing a complicated game. They could have been playing chess, but they instead became a jiu-jitsu person. They could have been a person who's like a champion video game person, but instead it's the same thing. It's like whatever makes you good at golf would also make you good at tennis. Like you got to like find, I mean, there's athletic limitations to some things, right? Like to be a really good runner, you have to be fast. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that like when a person gets really fucking good at something, it's like what that is, I think you can apply to anything with passion. See, this guy's got wild shit. There's another dude named Jeremiah Vance, and he might be one of the most impressive. He moves so fast off his back. His back is terrifying. When he's on the bottom, which is usually like a difficult position to attack from, it's way easier to attack on top because you have gravity on your side. So if you're on top of a person, you're smushing them, you have gravity on your side. That's an advantage. Like you have more pressure on them. They don't have any pressure on you. So you have to figure out a way to attack someone without any pressure. So the way, dude, he's a master off his back. He caught this dude in the fly trap, and he might have been like one of the first guys to ever pull this off on a high level competition.
Oh my God.
Dude, I'm telling you, Jeremiah Vance is an assassin off his back. But it's like this is not fun. This is not fundamental jiu-jitsu. This stuff that he's doing right here, this is not the basics. This is some wild variations that these really creative assassins are coming up with. What you see when you see Brian Ortega, I'm sure Brian could do all that shit if you show him. I'm sure he could. I'm sure he already knows it too. But what you see from him is all of the fundamentals, the triangle, the rear naked, the arm bar at razor sharp precision.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing. It's not just that he got a mounted guillotine on a world champion. It's the smoothness. Like, watch that. Play it. Can you play Brian Ortega's submission attempt on Volkanovski? We can't find it? I think it's on the UFC page. I know Ariel Helwani tweeted it. He tweeted a video, and he said, how? He said, how do you get out? How does someone get out of this? And it's a really good question. Because if you know how good Brian Ortega's jiu-jitsu is, you go, this is insane. This should be checkmate. There's another guy like Crone Gracie, who's Rickson Gracie's son. Crone Gracie got a guillotine on Cub Swanson, and Cub Swanson is a legitimate fucking murderer. He's a killer. He's really good. He's good all around. He can knock dudes out standing. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a bad motherfucker. He's been around forever. He's a veteran, just as tough as they come. And Crone Gracie caught his neck like a crocodile. It was like a crocodile snatching a wildebeest by the side of a waterhole.
Is this it?
This is Ortega Volkanovski, and this is the triangle. The fact that he got out of this is just as impressive, so we might as well watch this. Do you know how good that triangle is? That is so goddamn good, completely locked in. Ortega's head is fucking purple, and his nickname, T-City, that's Triangle City. That's Brian Ortega's nickname because he's so good at the triangle. He had a triangle fully locked in, and Volkanovski is such a bad motherfucker that he got out of it. and it looked like Ortega was done in the 4th round. It looked like he was beaten down.
Yeah.
And he came back and he won the 5th round. Dude, it was one of the wildest fights I've ever seen in my life. I've called 1,000 fights at least, maybe 1,500, maybe even 2,000. I don't know how many fights I've called. Watching that shit from home, I was like, this is one of the wildest things I've ever seen in my life. I was screaming.